Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my June wrap-up and my July TBR videos I make about what I've read in one month, what I plan to read the next month, just in case you're interested, have comments about these books, or are going to be reading them the same month. We can kind of share information about that, but also as a way for me to kind of keep account of what books I've been reading. Since I don't keep a reading journal, these videos actually kind of help me out. So, maybe this one's a little bit selfish, but I want to do that. Today is actually June the 30th, not July the 1st. So that does kind of affect where I am with some of my reading, because I'm not quite finished with my June reading, but I will be today. So real quickly, looking at what I read, and I'll talk about the two books I talked about most already first. So one of those books that I finished was Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. This is a buddy read that I did with Ross from Scally Daniel about the books, Zena from Beating Around the Books, and Mark Nash. And I did a full review of that, and if I can remember how to do that card thing, how many times I'm going to say that before I actually figure out how to do the card thing? Figure out how to do that card thing, I'll leave a link to that up above in case you haven't seen that review and are interested in seeing it. So I won't go into a lot of detail here because I already reviewed the book, but I will say that I liked it. I don't think that I loved it, but I did like it, and I do think it is a book worth reading. Second, I read Despised and Rejected by Rose Alatini. This was a book that was written in the 19-teens in the midst of World War I, and was banned by the British government, I think within a year of its publication, because it was pacifist in its nature. Its heroes are pacifists who refused to participate in any way in England's war efforts during World War I, and the book contains is essentially about gay and lesbian characters. I was really blown away by this book, and with its portrayal of kind of the really desperate circumstances in which gay and lesbian people in the 1910s had to live their lives, and how few role models there were, how few guides there were to how to go about this, to how to live a happy life in a world which, as the title suggests, despised and rejected them. And I just thought it was really well done. There were some flaws and problems I had with it, but I really liked it. Also this month I continued my buddy read of the collected short stories of Eudora Welty with Sean the Book Maniac. We are on about page 228 of this book of short stories. Our plan has been to read one story a week. I have to be honest with you, we kind of ran into a series of Welty stories that we really disliked, and our kind of commitment, I think, to going on wavered, but we are still doing that. And then you should also be aware, if you've been watching my channel, that I've been buddy reading the John Dos Passos USA trilogy with Jack the Rambling Raconteur, and in June we finished 1919, the second in that trilogy, which in some parts was a slog, in some parts were brilliant, and this is kind of, I think, the case with Dos Passos, which I said before. The narrative sections in which he's just telling a story vary in quality, but the other modernist sections with the newsreel, the camera eye, the little biographies of famous and important people of the time period he throws in there are oftentimes brilliant and well worth the read. Some things I finished, I think, since I kind of talked about this last. I did finish Maurice by Ian Forster. This is kind of a landmark, I guess, in gay literature. Forster wrote this in the 1910s, but it really wasn't published, I think, until the 1960s because of homophobia and anti-homosexual sentiments in the English-speaking world. It wasn't published so much later. And I think I mentioned when I first started reading this that I really was struggling with it, that Maurice wasn't resonating with me, that he felt like kind of a blank, and his personality was off-putting, and he seemed, kind of inordinately stupid and bumbling, and when he wasn't, he was kind of mean. But the brilliance of this book, I think, is that how Forster kind of develops that character into someone who you not only empathize with and feel real compassion for, because like the characters in Rose Alatini's book, he finds himself in a situation in which he is gay. He knows that he is a gay man attracted to men, and he lives in a world in which that confessing that can actually be deadly. Even that can be deadly today too. But he lives in a world in which there's no acceptance of that, and he struggles to come to grips with it. He attempts to deny his homosexuality. He tries to imagine a life with married to a woman, and he seeks medical assistance in trying to overcome this thing that he thinks is a curse of his nature, and in the end he absolutely triumphs. And so without giving any spoilers, I'm just going to say by the end of the book I'm rooting for Maurice. I'm proud of Maurice, and it's just, you know, in a real way he wins his liberation, I think, by the end of the book. Anyway, so I really like that. And then again, kind of along the same line, the same time period, I finished a couple of days ago. I finished No Modernism Without Lesbians by Diana Zuami. This is a group biography of a group of four lesbian women who played a vital role in promoting and creating the modernist movement in art, music, literature at the turn of the 20th century and into the 1920s and 30s. And so there are four people it focuses on: Sylvia Beach, Breyer, Natalie Barney, and Gertrude Stein. And I love this book. Zuami's writing is, I think, oh, by the way, I'm buddy reading this book with Stephanie Cohen, booktuber, commenter, and that's been great. Loved hearing her ideas. She's brilliant and really has kind of led me to thinking about the book and to information I wouldn't have known. So that's been brilliant. But the Zuami's writing style is effervescent. It's fun. It carries you from page to page. You know, I love group biographies like this as a way to introduce myself to characters and people that I hadn't known. And the topic of this book, modernism, and how lesbians help create the modernist movement, which is, you know, kind of where my reading is grounding, has just been great. I noticed, by the way, that kind of accidentally I had immersed myself in reading books in June that are all set kind of the same time period, that 1910s to, you know, maybe about the 1930 time period. And in doing so, you know, kind of as a part of Pride Month, I think that I really, for the first time, and this is probably obvious to most people, grasp exactly how courageous gay and lesbian and LGBTQ plus people had to be during this time period to carve out a life for themselves, to live that life, and to seek happiness, which everybody deserves. And that really came through in all of those books. And you know, 1919 is not about LGBTQ plus characters, nor is it accepting of them. But in being the way it is, it actually then, I think, further highlights the danger and the courage of members of the LGBTQ plus community who lived during that time period, who did the things they did. And so that really was good. And then yesterday, the 29th, I started A Mercy by Toni Morrison, because I had a couple of days in which I'd finished all the books I'd planned to read, and I'm about 70 pages from the end, and I'm going to finish this today because this is so much better than I thought it was. You know, recently I did a video about Toni Morrison, Where Not to Start, and I mentioned I hadn't read this or Home or God Bless the Child, her last three novels, and I kind of said, well, you know, this one's not thought to be very good at all. This is actually quite good. And I'm enjoying it very much. It's not very long. It's only 195 pages, so I should be able to finish that up today and add it to the list of Toni Morrison books that I really like. You know, and this again is just one of those situations where, you know, I was talking from ignorance and I was wrong, because I'm really enjoying this book. So then, what am I going to read in July? Well, there are some things that are obvious. July. Sorry about the dogs. July, Jack and I are going to finish up John Dos Passos USA trilogy by reading the third book in that trilogy, The Big Money. I'm looking forward to this, seeing if this book kind of rescues the trilogy from the slog of 1919. And I'm also kind of looking forward to having this kind of big reading project behind me, but not looking forward to the end of the exchange of ideas about these books with Jack, because that's been great. I'm also buddy reading Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi with Erica from The Broken Spine. Erica has not been posting a lot of videos on her channel lately, but she is posting on her blog, and I'll leave a link to that down below, as well as to her channel, so you can keep up with what Erica is up to. Sean and I will be continuing our reading of the short stories of Eudora Welty into July, and then there are other books that are kind of just books that I want to read. July is one of those months in which I only kind of participate in the big reading event in July in one way, and then the rest of the month I leave to read books I want to read that have nothing to do with a reading month. So July is Jane Austen July, and I will be listening to the audiobook of Emma. Emma is one of the two major Jane Austen works that I've never read. Mansfield Park would be the other. And because it's an audiobook, I should be able to listen to Emma and get Emma in as a book that I've read by listening to sometime this month. So that's my Jane Austen July. And then the rest of the month is just books that I want to read. You may remember that back in May, I believe, for whatever reason, I made May First Nations Reading Month for myself. Or was it April? Anyway, I made one of those months First Nation Reading Month for myself, but I did not finish one of the books in that I set aside for myself because I love Nupaming so much that I read it twice. So one of the books that I started was The Heartbeat of Wounded Knee by David Truer, a First Nations author, and I'd gotten about halfway through this book, and so I want to finish that as a part of my reading in July. And then just books that for me are just pure pleasure. I finally got my copy of Panenka by Ronan Hession. You may remember from last year that Hession's Leonard and Hungry Paul was one of my favorite books of last year, and I've been looking forward to this book, and my wife ordered it for me for Father's Day, and so I'm looking forward to that, even though the print is very small. I also have been looking forward to reading what I believe accounts for, yes, books 3 through 5 in Jan Foss's series, and this one is I Is Another Name. I've been looking forward to that and been planning to read that for quite some time. That's about 250 pages, and then I want to finish off reading the 4 novels of W.G. Sebald, whose work I love, by reading Vertigo this month. So yeah, those are my reading plans for July. I look forward to your comments. Let me know if you read any of these books that I've read in June, if you read any of the books I plan to read in July, in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you for watching.